Magandang hapon sa lahat. So, i-break ulit natin yung habit natin na kailangan talaga natin makapagbasa everyday ng libro, kahit ilang pages man lang. So, let's start. The Haves and the Bees. The Haves and the Bees. One way to determine which circle are concerned is to distinguish between the haves and the bees. The circle of concern is filled with the haves. I'll be happy when I have my house paid off. If only I have a boss who wasn't a dictator. If only I had a more patient husband. If I had more obedient kids. If I had my degree. If I could just have more time to myself. The circle of influence is filled with the bees. I can be more patient, be wise, be loving. It's the character focus. Anytime we think the problem is out there, that thought is the problem. Anytime we thought. Any time. Anytime we thought. Anytime we think. The problem is out there. That thought. That thought is the problem. That thought is the problem. We empower what's out there to control us. The change paradigm is outside in. What's out there has to change before we can change. The proactive approach is to change from the inside out to be different. And by being different, to effect positive change in what's out there. I can be more resourceful, I can be more diligent, I can be more creative, I can be more cooperative. One of my favorite stories is one in the Old Testament, part of the fundamental fabric of the Judeo Christian tradition. It's the story of Joseph, who was sold into slavery in Egypt by his brothers at the age of 17. Can you imagine how easy it would have been for him to languish in self pity as a servant of Potiphar, to focus on the weaknesses of his brothers and his captures and on all he didn't have? But Joseph was proactive. He worked on B. And within a short period of time, he was running Potiphar's household. He was in charge of all that Potiphar had because the trust was so high. Then the day came when Joseph was caught in difficult situation and refused to compromise his integrity. As a result, he was unjustly imprisoned for 13 years. But again, he was proactive. He worked on the inner circle, on being instead of having. And soon he was running the prison and eventually the entire nation of Egypt, second only to the Pharaoh. I know this idea is dramatic paradigm shift for many people. It is so much easier to blame other people, conditioning or conditions for our own stagnant situation. But we are responsible to control our lives and to powerfully influence our circumstances by working on B, on what we are. If I have a problem in my marriage, What do I really gain by continuing confessing my wife's sin? By saying I'm not responsible, I make myself a powerless victim. I immobilize myself in a negative situation. I also diminish my ability to influence her by my nagging, accusing, critical attitude only makes her feel validated in her own
Ano
weaknesses.
yun? Gunting? May gunting doon.
Kuha siguro.
Hmm?
Kuha siguro nila. Natuwa kay Dimple man. My criticism is worse than the conduct I want to correct. My ability to positively impact the situation withers and dies. If I really want to improve my situation, I can work on the one thing over which I have control myself. I can stop trying to shape up my wife and work on my own weaknesses. I can focus on being a great marriage partner, a source of unconditional love and support. Hopefully, my wife will feel the power of proactive example and respond in kind. But whether she does or doesn't, the most positive way I can influence my situation is to work on myself, on my being. There are so many ways to work in the circle of influence, to be a better listener, to be a more loving marriage partner, to be a better student, to be a more cooperative and dedicated employee. Sometimes the most proactive thing we can do is to be happy, just to genuinely smile. Happiness, like unhappiness, is a proactive choice. Happiness, like unhappiness, is a proactive choice. There are things like the weather that our circle of influence will never include. But as proactive people, we can carry our own physical or social weather with us. We can be happy and accept those things that at present we can't control, while we focus our efforts on the things that we can. The other end of the stick. Before we totally shift our life focus to our circle of influence, we need to consider two things in our circle of concern that merit deeper thought: consequences and mistakes. While we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose the consequences of those actions. While we are free to choose our actions, we are not free to choose the consequences of those actions. Consequences are governed by natural law. They are out in the circle of concern. We can decide to step in front of a fast moving train, but we cannot decide what will happen when the train hits us. We can decide to be dishonest in our business dealings, while the social consequences of that decision may vary depending on whether or not we are found out. The natural consequences to our basic character are a fixed result. Our behavior is governed by principles. Living in harmony with them brings positive consequences. Violating them brings negative consequences. We are free to choose our response in any situation, but in doing so, we choose the attendant consequence. When we pick up one end of the stick, we pick up the other. When we pick up one end of the stick, we pick up the other. Undoubtedly, there are There have been times in each of our lives when we have picked up what we later felt was the wrong stick. Our choices have brought consequences we would rather have lived without. If we had the choice to make over again, we would make it differently. We call these choices mistakes, and they are the second thing that merits our deeper thought. For those filled with regret, perhaps the most needful exercise of proactivity is to realize that past mistakes are also out there in the circle of concern. We can't recall them, we can't undo them, we can't recall them, we can't undo them, we can't control the consequences that came as a result. As a As a college quarterback, as a college quarterback, one of my sons learned to snap his wristband between plays as a kind of mental check-off whenever he or anyone made a sitting back mistake, so the last mistake wouldn't affect the result and execution of the next play. The proactive approach to a mistake is to acknowledge it instantly, correct, and learn from it. This literally turns a failure into a success. Success, said IBM founder T.J. Watson, is on the far side of failure. Success is on the far side of failure. Success is on the far side of failure. But not to acknowledge a mistake, nor to correct it and learn from it, is a mistake of a different order. It usually puts a person on a self deceiving, self justifying path, often involving rational lies to self and to others. This second mistake discovers up, empowers the first, giving it disproportionate importance and causes far deeper injury to self. It is not what others do or even our own mistakes that hurts us the most. It is our response to those things. Chasing after the poisonous snake that bites us will only drive the poison through our entire system. It is far better to take measures immediately to get the poison out. Chasing after the poisonous snake that bites us will only drive the poison through our entire system. It is far better to take measures immediately to get the poison out. Our response to any mistake affects the quality of the next moment. It is important to immediately admit and correct our mistakes so that they have no power over that next moment and we are empowered again. Making and keeping commitments. At the very heart of our circle of influence is our ability to make and com- to, keep commitments and promises. The commitments we make to ourselves and to others, in our integrity to those commitments, is the essence and clearest manifestation of our proactivity. It is also the essence of our growth through our human endowments of self awareness and conscience. We become conscious of areas of weakness, areas for improvement, areas of talent that could be developed, areas that need to be changed or eliminated from our lives. Then, as we recognize and use our imagination and independent will, then, as we recognize and use our imagination and independent will to act on that awareness, making promises, setting goals, and being true to them, we build the strength of the character, the being that makes possible every other positive thing in our lives. Naa, smart. 09 51 44 95 0951 44 95186. Bali, ara ah. Then, as we recognize and use our imagination and independent will to act on that awareness, making promises, setting goals, and being true to them, we build the strength of character, the being that makes possible every other positive thing in our lives. It is here that we find two ways to put ourselves in control of our lives immediately. We can make a promise and keep it, or we can set a goal and work to achieve it. As we make and keep commitments, even small commitments, we begin to establish an inner integrity that gives us the awareness of self control, the courage, and strength to accept more of the responsibility for our own lives. By making and keeping promises to ourselves and others, little by little, our honor becomes greater than our moods. The power to make and keep commitments to ourselves is the essence of developing the basic habits of effectiveness. Knowledge, skill, and desire are all within our control. We can work on any one to improve the balance of the three. As the area of intersection becomes larger, we more deeply internalize the principle upon which the habits are based and create the strength of character to move us in a balanced way towards increasing effectiveness in our lives. Tara ah. Ay, sorry. Thank you. Proactivity, the 30-day test. We don't have to go through the deep camp experience of the Bronx to recognize and develop our own proactivity. It is in the ordinary events of every day that we develop the proactive capacity to handle the extraordinary pressures of life. It's how we make the and keep commitments, how we handle a traffic jam, how we respond to an irate customer or a disobedient child. It's how we view our problems and where we focus our energies. It's the language we use. I would challenge you to test the principles of proactivity for 30 days. Simply try it and see what happens. For 30 days, work only in your circle of influence. Make small commitments and keep them. Be a light, not a judge. Be a model, not a critic. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Try it in your Try it in your marriage, in your family, in your job. Don't argue for other people's weaknesses. Don't argue for your own. When you make a mistake, admit it, correct it, and learn from it immediately. Don't get into a blaming, accusing mood. Work on things you have control over. Work on you. On B. Look at the weaknesses of others with compassion, not accusation. It's not what they're not doing or should be doing that's the issue. The issue is your own chosen response to the situation and what you should be doing. If you start to think the problem is out there, stop yourself. The thought is the problem. People who exercise their embryonic freedom day after day will little by little expand that freedom. People who do not will find that it withers until they are literally being lived. They are acting out the scripts written by parents, associates, and society. We are responsible for our own effectiveness, for our own happiness, and ultimately, I would say, for most of our circumstances. Samuel Johnson observed, "The fountain of content must spring up in the mind, and he who holds so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless effort and multiply the grief he proposes to remove." Knowing that we are responsible, is fundamental to effectiveness and to every other habit of effectiveness we will discuss. Hmm? Sige, wait lang. Sa copy? Isa lang ma'am. Utso. Okay lang. Yama. Thank you. So application suggestions. For a full day, listen to your language and to the language of the people around you. How often do you use in here reactive phrases such as if only, I can't, or I have to for a full day? Identify an experience you might encounter in the near future where, based on past experience, you would probably behave reactively. Review the situation in the context of your circle of influence. How could you respond proactively? Take several moments and create the experience vividly in your mind, picturing yourself responding in a proactive manner. Remind yourself of the gap between stimulus and response. Make a commitment to yourself to exercise your freedom to choose. Third, select a problem from your work or personal life that is frustrating to you. Determine whether it is a direct, indirect, or no control problem. Identify the first step you can take in your circle of influence to solve it and then take that step. Number four, try the 30-day test of proactivity. Be aware of the change in your circle of influence. So, we do have an activity application suggestion. We'll move to habit two. It is begin with the end in mind. So dependence, the step to be proactive, and let's be on the begin with the end in mind. Principles of personal leadership. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. Please find a place to read this next few pages where you can be alone and uninterrupted. Oh my God, I will be interrupted. Clear your mind of everything except what you will read and what I will invite you to do. Don't worry about your schedule, your business, your family, or your friends. Just focus with me and really open your mind. In your mind's eye, see yourself going to the funeral of a loved one. Picture yourself driving to the funeral parlor or chapel, parking the car and getting out. As you walk inside the building, you notice the flowers, the soft organ music. You see the faces of friends and family you pass along the way. You feel the shared sorrow of losing, the joy of having known that radiates from the hearts of the people there. As you walk down to the front of the room and look inside the casket, you suddenly come face to face with yourself. This is your funeral 3 years from today. All these people have come to honor you, to express feelings of love and appreciation for your life. As you take a seat and wait for the services to begin, you look at the program in your hand. There are to be four speakers. The first is from your family, immediate and also extended children, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, aunts, uncles, cousins, and grandparents who have come from all over the country to attend. The second speaker is one of your friends, someone who can give a sense of what you were as a person. The third speaker is from your work or profession. And the fourth is from your church or some community organization where you've been involved in service. Now think deeply. What would you like each of these speakers to say about you and your life? What kind of husband, wife, father, or mother would you like their words to reflect? What kind of son or daughter or cousin? What kind of friend? What kind of working associate? What character would you like them to have seen in you? What contribution, what achievements would you want them to remember? Look carefully at the people around you. Yara ah. So what character would you like them to have seen in you? What contributions, what achievements would you want them to remember? Look carefully at the people around you. What difference would you like to have made in their lives? Before you read farther, take a few minutes to jot down your impression. It will greatly increase your personal understanding of habit too. Mhm. Look carefully at the people around you. What difference would you like to have made in their lives? Nang pareho ko sa account, ma'am. Wala pa din ang account. Katong 5577, itong reference. Yung padadaan.
Sa iya ha?
Oo.
Nakailo di ate.
Naa.
Alog talog ko bebe, wait lang te. Para makaano.
Smart.
ATM
09.
35
Oo.
95
Oo.
42
Oo.
338. Then na.
0935954238.
Ila ba ito lang nila?
30.
Bawas lang ito.
Era, nana din yung 30 ha. For me, I think yung good influencer. Good influencer in a way. Good influencer. In a way na paano ba?
Hello, boy. Isin sa ko number dira abi sa smart padala.
Good influencer.
Isin i-click sa ko ang number sa smart padala di ba?
Yung mag-strive and
Pagdali,
strive
ha?
for success. Yung nakasmile na girl. Yung pwedeng mataguan ng sikreto.
O sige, istorya. Pagdali ba?
Ano pa ba? Ano ba yung pwede? Maging social. Yun nga, maging social influencer.
Unya. 7-7. Pagkaungan.
Nag-iisip pa ako.
9-2.
Siguro as sa mother and father, sa tatay at sa nanay ko,
12.
gusto ko masabi nila na proud sila bilang daughter nila. Yung sa friends ko naman, yung something na true friends, yung true thick and thin, hindi nang iiwan.
More ne?
Gusto ko yung ganong sinasabi nila sa akin.
9-2.
Then sa company,
8-8.
sa company,
7-7.
yung hindi nagiging liabilities, yung nagtatrabaho talaga, hindi lang para sa
9-7.
pera.
9-2.
Hindi nagtatrabaho kasi
Oh.
nakakapag-contribute ng growth sa isang company.
500. Ano ka ito? 27 na sa 10.
92127.
27.
Tapos,
9792.
so 921227. Tapos 9792.
Ano boy? Akong i-send ako sa number sa mga. Ay, kanil ko pa.
Unsa man?
Sa ballpen te.
Nga naman.
Send ko na ko na. Ito na mag.
Okay, mag-send sa confirmation. Oo.
Sige boy.
Ay, ma'am, ang bayad, ma'am.
Ay, sino ko ba yung 30?
Oh, ay, nagbayad na 30, pero ang 500 wala pa man.
Ano ba ito? Sorry, sige.
Sige, thank you. the fourth. Ano ba yung fourth? From your church or some community. Ano ba? Mas, mag-read mo nag-ano. Giisip muna ako. Ano bang pwede nilang sabihin sa akin? So, what it means to begin with the end in mind. If you participated seriously in this visualization experience, you touch for a moment some of your deep, fundamental values. You establish brief contact with that inner guidance system at the heart of your circle of influence. Consider the words of Joseph Addison. When I look upon the tombs of the great, every emotion of envy dies in me. When I read the epitaphs of the beautiful, every inordinate desire goes out. When I meet with the griefs of parents upon a tombstone, my heart melts with compassion. When I see the tomb of the parents themselves, I consider the vanity of grieving for those whom we must quickly follow. When I see kings lying by those who deposed them, when I considered rival which placed side by side, or the holy men that divided the world with their contests and disputes, I reflect with sorrow and astonishment on the little competition, faction, and debates of mankind. When I read the several dates of the tombs, and some that died yesterday, and some 600 years ago, I consider that great day when we shall all of us be contemporaries and make our appearance together. Although habit too applies to many different circumstances and levels of life, the most fundamental application of begin with the end in mind is to begin today with the image, picture, or paradigm of the end of your life as your frame of reference or the criterion by which experience else is examined. Each part of life each part of your life, today's behavior, tomorrow's behavior, next week's behavior, next month's behavior, can be examined in the context of the whole, of what really matters most of you. By keeping that end clearly in mind, you can make certain that whatever you do on any particular day does not violate the criteria you have defined as supremely important, and that each day of your life contributes in a meaningful way to the vision you have of your life as a whole. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. Begin begin with the end to begin. To begin with the end in mind. To begin in means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now. Hapon. Ulo, no. Asa? Naa. Smart or Globe? 09.
0935
Oo.
50
Oo.
72
Oo.
636.
093550723636.
90 lang ma'am. Regular.
Three. Ah. To begin with the end in mind means to start with a clear understanding of your destination. It means to know where you're going so that you better understand where you are now and so that the steps you take are always in the right direction.
Silong ka. Silong ka.
Yara ah.
No. Wala ko yung cellphone dalon niya.
Full name, address, tapos perma.
Magpapunta. Ano ko diya?
Ah.
Dapat ito ako sa kalay ba sa cellphone. Sunod yan,
Oo. 5, 6, 707.
Saging, palit mo na
Thank
lang
you.
mangga. May kilos. Sa isin ng dali.
It's incredibly easy to get caught up in an activity trap in the busyness of life, to work harder and harder at climbing the ladder of success, only to discover it's leaning against the wrong one. It is possible to be busy, very busy, without being very effective. People often find themselves achieving victories that are empty, successes that have come at the expense of things they suddenly realize were far more valuable to them. People from every walk of life, doctors, academicians, actors, politicians, business professionals, athletes, and plumbers often struggle to achieve a higher income, more recognition, or a certain degree of professional competence, only to find that their drive to achieve their goal blinded them to the things that really mattered most and now are gone. How different our lives are when we really know what is deeply important to us. And keeping that picture in mind, we manage ourselves each day to be and to do what really matters most. If the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. We may be very busy, we may begin very efficient, but we will also be truly effective only when we begin with the end in mind. If you carefully consider what you wanted to be said of you in the funeral experience, you will find your definition of success. It may be very different from the definition you thought you had in mind. Perhaps fame, achievement, money, or some of the other things we strive for are not even part of the right wall. When you begin with the end in mind, you gain a different perspective. One man asked another on the death of a mutual friend, "How much did he leave?" His friend responded, "He left it all." All things are created twice. Begin with the end in mind is based on the principle that all things are created once. Created twice. All things are created twice. There's a mental or first creation and a physical or second creation to all things. Take the construction of a home, for example. You create it in every detail before you ever hammer the first nail into place. You create it in every detail before you ever hammer the first nail into place. You try to get a very clear sense of what kind of house you want. If you want a family centered home, you plan to put a family room where it would be a natural gathering place. You plan sliding doors and paseo for children to play outside. You work with ideas. You work with your mind until you get a clear image of what you want to build. Then you reduce it to blueprint and develop construction plans. All of this is done before the earth is touched. If not, then in the second creation, the physical creation, where you will have to make expensive changes that may double the cost of your home. The carpenter's rule is measure twice, cut once. You have to make sure that the blueprint, the first creation, is really what you want, that you've thought everything through. Then you put it into bricks and mortar. Each day you go to the construction shed and pull out the blueprint to get matching orders for the day. You begin with the end in mind. For another example, look at a business. If you want to have a successful enterprise, you clearly define what you're trying to accomplish. You carefully think through the product or service you want to provide in terms of your market target. Then you organize all the elements: financial, research and development, operations, marketing, personnel, physical facilities, and so on to meet that objective. The extent to which you begin with the end in mind often determines whether or not you are able to create a successful enterprise. Most business failures begin in the first creation with the problems such as undercapitalization, misunderstanding of the market, or lack of a business plan. The same is true with parenting. If you want to raise responsible, self disciplined children, you have to keep that end clearly in mind. As you interact with your children on a daily basis, you can't behave toward them in ways that undermine their self-discipline or self-esteem. To varying degrees, people use this principle in many different areas of life. People you go on a trip, you determine your destination and plan out the best route. Before you plant a garden, you plant it out in your mind, passable on paper. You create speeches on paper before you give them.
Ambot nimo.
Wala ko ATM card sa Tagum ko.
Wala.
Kailangan mo diri o kindly claim your ATM card at your designated Tagum Cooperative Branch. Namali siguro niya?
Wala mo.
Kindly disregard this message if you already claimed your ATM card.
Pag i-claim gulo nimo kay wa man kang ATM.
Wala mo ko ATM card, di ba?
Wala man jud si nanay kay di ba nag-direct naman to siya sa savings.
O gani,
Basin na mali lang na usen. Hindi na sa iya ha.
dapat makuha na nimo.
Na wala mo ko ATM dyan, sukan.
Before you plant a garden, you plant it out in your mind, passably on paper. You create speeches on paper before you get them. You envision the landscaping in your yard before you landscape it. You design the clothes you make before you thread the needle. To the extent to which we understand the principle of due creation and accept the responsibility for both, we act within and enlarge the borders of our circle of influence. To the extent to which we do not operate in harmony with this principle and take charge of the first creation, we diminish. By design or default, it's a principle that all things are created twice, but not all first creation are by conscious design. In our personal lives, we do not develop our own self awareness and become responsible for first creation. We empower other people and circumstances outside our circle of influence to shape much of our lives by default. We reactively live the script handed to us by family associates, other people's agenda, the pressures of circumstance, script from other earlier years, from our training, our conditioning. These scripts come from people, not principles, and they rise out of our deep vulnerabilities, our deep dependencies on others, and our needs for acceptance and love, for belonging, for a sense of importance and worth, for a feeling that we matter. Whether we are aware of it or not, whether we are in control of it or not, there is a first creation to every part of our lives. We are either the second creation of our own proactive design, or we are the second creation of other people's agenda, of circumstances, or of past habits. The unique human capacities of self-awareness, imaginations, and conscience enables us to examine first creation and make it possible for us to take charge of our own first creation, to write our own script. Put another way, habit 1 says you are the creator. You are the creator. Habit 2 is the first creation. So, habit 2 is based on principles of personal leadership, which means that leadership is the first creation. Leadership is not management. Management is the second creation, which we'll discuss in the chapter on habit 3. But leadership has to come first. Management is a bottom line focus. How can I best accomplish certain things? Leadership deals with the top line. What are the things I want to accomplish? In the words of both Peter Drucker and Warren Bennis, management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Management. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. Management is efficiency in climbing the ladder of success. Leadership determines whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall. You can quickly grasp the important difference between the two if you envision a group of producers cutting their way through the jungle with machetes. They're the producer, the problem solver. They're cutting through the undergrowth, clearing it out. The managers are behind them, sharpening their matches, writing policy and procedure manual, holding muscle development programs, bringing in improved technologies, and setting up working schedules and compensation programs for machete wielders. The leader is the one who climbs the tallest tree, surveys the entire situation, and yells, wrong jungle. But how do the busy, efficient producers and managers often respond? Shut up, we're making progress. As individuals, groups, and businesses, we often so busy cutting through the undergrowth we don't even realize we're in the wrong jungle. In a rapidly changing environment in which we live makes effective leadership more critical than it has ever been in every aspect of independent and interdependent life. We are more in need of a vision or determined destination in a compass, a set of principles or direction, in less in need of a road map. We often don't know what the terrain ahead will be like or what we will need to go through it. Much will depend on our judgment at the time, but an inner compass will always give us direction. Effectiveness, often even survival, does not depend solely on how much effort we expend, but on whether or not the effort we expend is in the right jungle. And the metamorphosis taking place in most every industry and profession demands leadership first and management second. In business, the market is changing so rapidly that many products and services that successfully meet consumer taste and needs a few years ago are obsolete today. Proactive, powerful leadership must constantly monitor environmental change, particularly customer buying habits and motives, and provide the force necessary to organize resources in the right direction. Such changes as deregulations of the airline industry, skyrocketing cost of healthcare, and the greater quality and quantity of imported cars impact the environment in significant ways. If industries do not monitor the environment, including their own work teams, and exercise the creative leadership to keep headed in the right direction, no amount of management expertise can keep them from failing. Efficient management without effective leadership is, as one individual has phrased it, like strengthening deck chairs on the Titanic. No management success can compensate for failure in leadership, but leadership is hard because we're often caught in a management paradigm. At the final session of a year-long executive development program in Seattle, Seattle, the president of an oil company came up to me and said, Stephen, when you pointed out the difference between leadership and management in the second month, I looked at my role as the president of this company and realized that I had never been into leadership. I was deep into management, buried by pressing challenges in the details of day to day logistics. So I decided to withdraw from management. I could get other people to do that. I wanted to really lead my organization. It was hard. I went through withdrawal pains because I stopped dealing with a lot of depressing, urgent matters that were right in front of me, in which gave me a sense of immediate accomplishment. I didn't receive much satisfaction as I started wrestling with the direction issues, the culture building issues, the deep analysis of problems, and the sizing of new opportunities. Others also went through withdrawal pains from their working style comfort zones. They missed the easy accessibility I had given them before. They still wanted me to be available to them, to respond, to help solve their problems on a day-to-day basis. But I persisted. I was absolutely convinced that I needed to be provide leadership, and I did. Today, our whole business is different. We're more in line with our environment. We have doubled our revenues and quadrupled our profits. I'm into leadership. So am I in a management, not into leadership? I'm convinced that too often parents are also trapped in the management paradigm, thinking of control, efficiency, and rules instead of direction, purpose, and family feeling. And leadership is even more lacking in our personal lives. We're into managing with efficiency, setting and achieving goals before we have even clarified our values. Rescripting, becoming your own first creator. As we previously observed, proactivity is based on the unique human endowment of self-awareness, the two additional unique human endowments that enable us to expand our proactivity and to exercise personal leadership in our lives are imagination and conscience. Through imagination, we can visualize the uncreated worlds of potential that lie within us. Through conscience, we can come in contact with universal laws or principles, with our own singular talents and avenues of contribution, and with a guide, personal guidelines within which we can most effectively develop them. Combined with self-awareness, these two endowments empower us to write our own script. Because we already live with many scripts that have been handed to us, the process of writing our own script is actually more a process of rescripting or paradigm shifting or changing some of the basic paradigms that we already have. As we recognize the ineffective script, the incorrect or incomplete paradigms within us, we can proactively begin to rescript ourselves. I think one of the most inspiring accounts of the rescripting process comes from the autobiography of Anwar Sadat, past president of Egypt. Anwar Sadat. Sadat had been reared, nurtured, and deeply scripted in a hatred for Israel. He would make the statement on national television: I will never shake the hand of an Israelite as long as they occupy 1 inch of Arab soil. Never, never, never. In huge crowds all around the country would chant, never, never, never. He marshaled the energy and unified the will of the whole country in that script. The script was very independent and nationalistic, and it is. Hi, Jen! Ng hapon! Aroused deep emotions in the people, but it was also very foolish. And Sadat knew it. It ignores the perilous, highly interdependent reality of the situation. So he rescripted himself. It was a process he had learned when he was a young man imprisoned in cell 54, a solitary cell in Cairo's central prison. As a result of his involvement in the conspiracy plot against King Farouk, he learned to withdraw from his own mind and look at it to see if the script were appropriate and wise. He learned how to vacate his own mind and through a deep personal process of meditation to work with his own scriptures, his own form of prayer, and rescript himself. He records that he was almost lured to leave his prison cell because it was there that he realized that real success is success with self. It's not in having things, but in having mastery, having victory over self. Real success. Real success is success with self. Real success is success with self. It it's not. Okay, thank you sa pagtambay, Jen. God bless. Ingat-ingat sa work and enjoy. Real success is success with self. It's not in having things. It's not in having things, but in having mastery. Having victory over self. For a period of time during Nasser's administration, Sadat was relegated to a position of a relative insignificance. Everyone felt that his spirit was broken, but it wasn't. They were projecting their own home movies onto him. They didn't understand him. He was biding his time. And when the time came when he became president of Egypt and confronted the political realities, he rescripted himself toward Israel. He visited the Knesset in Jerusalem and opened up one of the most precedent-breaking peace movements in the history of the world. A bold initiative that eventually brought about the Camp David Accord. Sadat was able to use his self-awareness, his imagination, and his conscience to exercise personal leadership, to change an essential to change an essential paradigm, to change the way he saw the situation. He worked in the center of his circle of influence, and from that rescripting, that change in paradigm, flowed changes in behavior and attitude that affected millions of lives in the wider circle of concern. In developing our own self awareness, many of us discover ineffective script, deeply embedded habits that are totally unworthy of us, totally incongruent with the things we really value in life. Habit 2 says we don't have to live with those scripts. We are response able to use our imagination and creativity to write new ones that are more effective, more concurrent with our deepest value and with the correct principles that give our values meaning. Suppose, for example, that I am highly overreactive to my children. Suppose that whenever they begin to do something I feel is inappropriate, I sense an immediate tensing in the pit of my stomach. I feel defensive walls go up. I prepare for battle. My focus is not on the long term growth and understanding, but on the short term behavior. I'm trying to win the battle, not the war. I pull out my ammunition. I pull out my ammunition, my superior size, my position of authority, and I yell or intimidate or I threaten or punish, and I win. I stand there, victorious in the middle of the debris of a shattered relationship, while my children are outwardly submissive and inwardly rebellious, suppressing feelings that will come out later in uglier ways. Now, if I were sitting at that funeral we visualized earlier and one of my children was about to speak, I would want his life to represent the victory of teaching, training, and disciplining with love over a period of years, rather than the battle of rather than the battle scars of quick fix skirmism. I would want his heart and mind to be filled with the pleasant memories of deep, meaningful times together. I would want him to remember me as a loving father who shared the fun and the pain of growing up. I would want him to remember the times he came to me with his problems and concern. I would want to have listened and loved and helped. I would want him to know I wasn't perfect, but that I had tried with everything I had. And that, perhaps more than anybody in the world, I love him. The reason I would want those things is because, deep down, I value my children. I love them. I want to help them. I value my role as their father. But I don't always see those values. I get caught up in the thick of thin things. What matters most get buried under layers of pressing problems, immediate concerns, and outward behaviors. I become reactive. And the way I interact with my children every day often bears little resemblance to the way I deeply feel about them. Because I am self aware, because I have imagination and conscience, I can I can examine my deepest values. I can realize that the script I'm living is not in harmony with those values, that my life is not the product of my own proactive design, but the result of the first creation I have deferred to circumstances and other people. And I can change. I can live out of my imagination instead of my memory. I can tie myself to my limitless potential instead of my limiting past. I can become my own first creator. To begin with the end in mind means to approach my role as a parent as well as my other rules in life with my values and direction clear. It means to be responsible for my own first creation, to rescript myself so that the paradigms from which my behavior and attitude flow are congruent with my deepest value and in harmony with correct principles. It also means to begin each day with those values firmly in mind. Then as the vicissitudes, ano ba to? Word na to. Vicissitudes. 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 Parang paulan na sa amin dito. V A change of circumstances or fortune, typically one that is unwelcome or unpleasant. So it also means to begin each day with those values firmly in mind. Then as the vicissitudes, as the challenges come, I can make my own decision based on those values. I can act with integrity. I don't have to react to the emotion, the circumstance. I can be truly proactive, value driven, because my values are clear. A personal mission statement. The most effective way I know to begin with the end in mind is to develop a personal mission statement or philosophy or grid. It focuses on what you want to be, character, and to do contributions and achievements, and on the values or principles upon which being and doing are based. Because each individual is unique, a personal mission statement will reflect that uniqueness both in content and form. My friend Rolfi Kier has expressed his personal grid in this way. Succeed at home first. Seek and merit divine help. Never compromise with honesty. Remember the people involved. Hear both sides before judging. Obtain counsel of others. Defend those who are absent. Be sincere yet decisive. Develop one new proficiency a year. Plan tomorrow's work today. Plan tomorrow's work today. Hassle while you wait. Maintain a positive attitude. Keep a sense of humor. Be orderly in person and in work. Do not fear mistake. Do not fear mistake. Fear only the absence of creative, constructive, and corrective responses to those mistakes. Faci- Facilitate the success of subordinates. Listen twice as much as you speak. Concentrate all abilities and efforts on the task at hand, not worrying about the next job or promotion. A woman seeking to balance family and work values. Ha? Wala. A woman seeking to balance family and work values has expressed her sense of personal mission differently. I will seek to balance career and family as best as I can since both are important to me. My home will be a place where I and my family, friends, and guests find joy, comfort, peace, and happiness. Still, I will seek to create a clean and orderly environment, yet livable and comfortable. I will exercise wisdom in what we choose to eat, read, see, and do at home. I especially want to teach my children to love, to learn, and to laugh, and to work and develop their unique talents. I value the rights, freedoms, and responsibilities of our democratic society. I will be a concerned and informed citizen involved in the political process to ensure my voice is heard and my vote is counted. I will be a self starting individual who exercises initiative in accomplishing my life's goals. I will act on situations and opportunities. Yes! Nara Dili ka mo ato kay Joy Joy?
Basta ko niya.
Ay, okay. Abi na.
Tawag sa.
Sige, sige.
Balik ko dito sa case.
Ah, salamat. Nagwala pa. Nyapit naman to si ano, si Melay. Kapit lang siya. Nangyagda pa ito si Kuan ay si Joy Joy dito magkuan sa ilaha kay iyahang anniversary Manila ba sa iyaha ni Ryan. Isa na si Melay. Ano man? Kuha lang to niyang kuan. Kuha niyang kwarta. Ah, I will be a self-starting individual who exercises initiative in accomplishing my life's goal. I will act on situations and opportunities rather than to be acted upon. I will always try to keep myself free from addictive and destructive habits. I will develop habits that free me from I will always try to keep myself free from addictive and destructive habits. I will develop habits that free me from old labels and limits and expand my capabilities and choices. My money will be my servant, not my master. I will seek financial independence over time. My wants will be subject to my needs and my means. Except for long term home and car loans, I will seek to keep myself free from consumer debt. I will spend less than I earn and regularly save or invest part of my income. Moreover, I will use what money and talents I have to make life more enjoyable for others through service and charitable giving. You could call a personal mission statement a personal constitution, like the United States Constitution. its fundamental changeless. In over 200 years, there have been only 26 amendments. There have been only 26 amendments, 10 of which were in the original Bill of Rights. The United States Constitution is the standard by which every law in the country is evaluated. It is the document the President agrees to defend and support when he takes the oath of allegiance. It is the criterion by which people are admitted into citizenship. It is the foundation and the center that enables people to ride through such major traumas as the Civil War, Vietnam, Vietnam, or Watergate. It is the written standard, the key criterion by which everything else is evaluated and directed. The Constitution has endured and serves its vital function today because it is based on correct principles, on the self-evident truths contained in the Declaration of Independence. These principles empower the Constitution with timeless strength even in the midst of social ambiguity and change. Our peculiar security, said Thomas Jefferson. Our peculiar security, said Thomas Jefferson, is in the possession of a written constitution. A personal mission statement based on a correct principle becomes the same kind of standard for an individual. It becomes a personal constitution, the basis for making major life directing decisions in life directing decisions, the basis for making daily decisions in the midst of the circumstances and emotions that affect our lives. It empowers individuals with the same timeless strength in the midst of change. People can't live with change if there's not changeless core inside them. The key to the ability to change is a chainless sense of who you are, what you are about, and what you value. With a mission statement, we can flow with changes. We don't need prejudgments or prejudice. We don't need to figure out everything else in life, to stereotype and categorize everything and everybody in order to accommodate reality. Our personal environment is also changing at an ever increasing pace. Such rapid change burns out a large number of people who feel they can hardly handle it, can hardly cope with life. They become reactive and essentially give up, hoping that the things that happens to them will be good. But it doesn't have to be that way. In the Nazi Death Camps, where Viktor Frankl learned the principle of proactivity, he also learned the importance of purpose, of meaning in life, the essence of logotherapy. The philosophy he later developed and taught is that many so called mental and emotional illnesses are really symptoms of an underlying sense of meaninglessness or emptiness. Logotherapy eliminates that emptiness by helping the individual to detect his unique meaning, his mission in life. Once you have that sense of mission, you have the essence of your own proactivity. You have the vision and the values which direct your life. You have the basic direction. You have the basic direction from which you set your long and short-term goals. You have the power of a written constitution based on correct principles, against which every decision concerning the most effective use of your time, your talents, and your energies can be effectively measured. So, at the center, in order to write a personal mission statement, we must begin the very center of our circle of influence. That center comprised of our most basic paradigms, the lens through which we see the world. It is here that we deal with our vision and our values. It is here that we use our endowment of self awareness to examine our maps, and if we value correct principles, to make certain that our maps accurately describe the territory, that our paradigms are based on principles and reality. It is here that we use our endowment and conscience as a compass to help us detect our own unique talents and areas of contribution. It is here that we use our endowment of imagination to mentally create the end we desire, giving direction and purpose to our beginnings and providing the substance of a written personal constitution. It is also here that our focused efforts achieve the greatest result. As we work within the very center of our circle of influence, we expand it. This is highest leveraged PC work, significantly impacting the effectiveness of every aspects of our lives. Whatever is at the center of our life will be the source of our security, guidance, wisdom, and power. Security represents your sense of worth, your identity, your emotional anchorage, your self-esteem, your basic personal strength or lack of it. Guidance means your source of direction in life, encompasses by your map, your internal frame of reference that interprets for you what is happening out there. Our standard of principles or implicit criteria that govern moment by moment decision making and doing. Wisdom is your perspective on life, your sense of balance, your understanding of how the various parts of principles apply and relate to each other. It embraces judgment, discernment, comprehension. It is a gestalt of oneness. Gestalt. Gestalt. Ano ba to? Gestalt. It is a gestalt. 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 An organized whole that is perceived as more than the sum of its parts. Mm. It is a gestalt or oneness, an integrity to wholeness. Power is the faculty or capacity to act, the strength or potency to accomplish something. The strength and potency to accomplish something. It is a vital energy to make choices and decisions. It is also includes the capacity to overcome deeply embedded habits and to cultivate higher, more effective ones. Mm. Now, there is a drawing over here. I'll show it to you. There's a center. Up is the security, the wisdom, the guidance, and power. These four factors, security, guidance, wisdom, and power, are interdependent. Mhm. So, security and clear guidance bring true wisdom, and wisdom becomes the spark of catalyst to release and direct power. When these four factors are present together, harmonized and live by each other, they create the great force of a noble personality, a balanced character, a beautifully integrated individual. So you have in your center, kailangan mo magkaroon ng power. Kailangan mo nagkaroon ng security, saka wisdom, and guidance. These life support factors also undergird every other dimension of life, and none of them is an all or nothing matter. The degree to which you have developed each one could be charted somewhere on a continuum. much like the maturity continuum described earlier. At the bottom end, the four factors are weak. You are basically dependent on circumstances or other people, things over which you have no direct control. At the top end, you are in control. You have independent strength in the foundation for rich, interdependent relationship. Your security lies somewhere on the continuum between extreme insecurity on one end, wherein your life is buffeted by all the fickle forces that play upon it, in a deep sense of high intrinsic worth and personality and personal security on the other end. Your guidance ranges on the continuum from dependence on the social mirror or other unstable, fluctuating sources to strong inner direction. Your wisdom falls somewhere between a totally inaccurate map where everything is distorted and nothing seems to fit, and complete and accurate map of life wherein all the parts and principles are properly related to each other. Your power lies somewhere between immobilization or being, a puppet pulled by someone else's string to high proactivity, the power to act accordingly, the power to act according to your own values instead of being acted upon by other people and circumstances. The location of these factors on the continuum, the resulting degree of their integration, harmony and balance, and their positive impact on every aspect of your life is a function of your center, the basic paradigms at your very core. So, alternative centers. Each of us has a center, though we usually don't recognize, though we, wait, though we usually don't recognize it as such, neither do we recognize the all-encompassing effects. Neither do we recognize the all-encompassing effects of that center on every aspect of our lives. Let's briefly examine several centers of core paradigms people typically have for a better understanding of how they affect this fourth fundamental dimension and ultimately the sum of life that flows from them. Spouse centeredness. Marriage can be the most intimate, the most satisfying, the most enduring, growth producing of human relationships. It might seem natural and proper to be centered on one's husband or wife, but experience and observation tell a different story. Over the years, I have been involved in working with many troubled marriages. I have observed a certain thread weaving itself through almost every spouse centered relationship I have encountered. That thread is strong emotional dependence. If our sense of emotional worth comes primarily from our marriage, then we become highly dependent upon that relationship. We become vulnerable to the moods and feelings, the behavior and treatment of our spouse, or to any external event that may impinge on that relationship. A new child, in laws, economic setbacks, social successes, and so forth. When responsibilities increase and stress come in the marriages, we tend to revert to the scripts we were given as we were growing up. But so does our spouse, and those scripts are usually different. Different ways of handling financial, child discipline, or in laws issues come to the surface. When these deep seated tendencies combine with the emotional dependency in the marriages, in the marriage, the spouse centered relationship reveals all its vulnerability. When we are dependent on the person with whom we are in conflict, both need and conflict are compounded. Love, hate overreactions, fight or flight tendencies, withdrawal, aggressiveness, bitterness, resentment, and cold competition are some of the usual results. When these occur, we tend to fall even farther back on background tendencies and habits in an effort to justify and defend our own behavior and we attack our spouse. Hmm, ganun ba yun? Di pa kasi ako. Di ko pa masasabing spouse kasi hindi pa naman ako ano. Inevitably, anytime we are too vulnerable, we feel the need to protect ourselves from further wounds. So we resort to sarcasm, cutting humor, criticism, anything that will keep from exposing the tenderness within. Each partner tends to wait on initiative of the other for love, only to be disappointed but also confirm as to the rightness of the accusation made. There is only phantom security in such a relationship when all appears to be going well. Guidance is based on the emotion of the moment. Wisdom and power are lost in the counter-dependent negative interaction. Mhm. Family centeredness. Another common center is the family. These two may seem to be natural and proper. As an area of focus and deep investment, it provides great opportunities for deep relationship, for loving, for sharing, for much that makes life worthwhile. But as a center, it ironically destroys the very elements necessary to family success. People who are family centered get their sense of security or personal worth from the family tradition and culture or the family reputation. Thus, they become vulnerable to any changes in the tradition or culture, to any influences that would affect that reputation. Family centered parents do not have the emotional freedom, the power to raise their children with their ultimate welfare truly in mind. If they derive their own security from the family, their need to be popular with their children may override the importance of long term investment in their children's growth and development. Or they may be focused on the proper and correct behavior of the moment. Any behavior that they consider improper threatens their security. They become upset, guided by the emotions of the moment, spontaneously reaching spontaneously reacting to the immediate concern rather than the long term growth and development of the child. They may yell or scream. They may overact and punish out of a bad temper. They tend to love their children conditionally, making them emotionally dependent or counter dependent and rebellious. Money centeredness. Another logical and extremely common center to people's life is making money. Economic security is basic to one's opportunity to do much in any other dimension. In a hierarchy or continuum of needs, physical survival and financial security comes first. Other needs are not even activated until that basic need is satisfied or at least minimally. Most of us face economic worries. Many forces in the wider culture can and do act upon our economic situation, posing or threatening such disruption that we often experience concern and worry that may not always rise to the conscious surface. Sometimes, there are apparently noble reasons given for making money, such as the desire to take care of one's family, and these things are important. But to focus on making money as a center will bring about its own undoing. Consider again the four life support factors: security, guidance, wisdom, and power. Suppose I derive much of my security from my employment or from my income or net worth. Since many factors affect this economic foundation, I become anxious and uneasy, protective and defensive about anything that may affect them. When my sense of personal worth comes from my net worth, I am vulnerable to anything that will affect that net worth. But work in money per se provide no wisdom, no guidance in only limited degree of power and security. All it takes to show the limitation of the money center is a crisis in my life or in the life of a loved one. Money centered people often put aside family or other priorities, assuming everyone will understand that economic demands comes first. I know one father who was living with his children for a promised trip to the circus when a phone call came for him to come to work instead. He declined. When his wife suggested that perhaps he should have gone to work, he responded, "The work will come again, but childhood won't." For the rest of their lives, his children remember this little act of priority setting, not only as an object lesson in their minds, but as an expression of love in their hearts. The work will come again, but childhood won't. Excuse me. The work will come again, but childhood won't. Bitaw, no? Kung mag kung spouse-centeredness, wala siyang problem. Work-centeredness. Work-centered people may become workaholic, driving themselves to produce at the sacrifice of health, relationship, and other important areas of their lives. Their fundamental identity come from their work. I'm a doctor. I'm a writer. I'm an actor. Because their identity and sense of self-worth are wrapped up in their work, their security is vulnerable to anything that happens to prevent them from continuing in it. Their guidance is a function of the demands of the work. Their wisdom and power come in the limited areas of their work, rendering them ineffective in other areas of life. Position centeredness. A driving force of many people is positions, not only tangible material possessions such as fashionable clothes, homes, cars, boats, and jewelry, but also the intangible possessions of fame, glory, or social prominence. Thank you, Makmakski. Salamat sa visit. Most of us are aware, through our own experience, how a singularity flows such as center is, simply because it can vanish rapidly and it is influenced by so many forces. If my sense of security lies in my reputation or in the things I have my life, or in the things I have, my life will be in a constant state of threat and jeopardy. Nag-aaral ka ba, host? Hindi. Ah, ano ba? Oh, nag-aaral. Nag-aaral ako or binibreak ko yung habit na dapat daily meron na akong binabasa. Kahit Monday to Friday man lang. So, kailangan ko siyang magbasa ng libro. Maganda siya na libro kung maanuhan mo siya. The Habits siya. Ano. The Habits of Highly Effective People. Nasa habit number 2. So, yung unang habit is being proactive. So, dapat maging proactive ka na person para maging belong ka dito sa mga effective people. And yung pangalawa, ito na yung begin with the end in mind. So, parang yun nga, yung rescripting sa sa buhay-buhay mo. Gusto mo umakyat? Para usap tayo. Nakaano na ako eh. Kahapon naka 88 na ako, page 88 na ako. This time nasa page 114 na ako. Ibig sabihin na ako, 26 pages. Wala ako alam dyan, host. Kalukuhan kasi alam ko. Pero hindi naman siguro lahat kalukuhan. Sige, naakyat ka dito para makita ko kalukuhan mo. Akyat ka na. Sige. Yan. Gawin kitang co-host. Ba't wala
Hello.
mukha mo? Ba't wala mukha mo? Pakita ka naman. Dapat pala gawin pa kitang moderator. Ayun na pala kita. May jacket ka pa na. May jacket ka na pala. Ha?
Saan ka?
Taga Davao del Norte.
Ang taga Davao ka rin pala. Magkakilala pala kayo, Madam Attorney.
Yeah, si Attorney Justice, siya, din siya, same kami ng school, sa high school. Parang batch ata siya. Ay, hindi. Ahead ata siya sa kapatid ko. Pero mas bata si attorney sa akin. Ahead ako sa kanya. Si
Mas
attorney,
matanda.
di ba yung una na ka-friend? Paano ba kayo nagka-join ni attorney? Paano kayo naging friends?
Kay Ash Kim.
Kay Ash Kim pala. Pero di ba sa Manila ka ngayon?
Opo.
Ayan. Ba't hindi ka nagpapakita? Bakit moon lang yung nakikita? Moon ba yan o sun?
Saka na kasi wala kong mukha nga niharap eh.
Bakit wala kang mukhang nahiharap? Putol ba yung mukha? Yung ulo mo? May kasalanan ka ba na wala kang mukhang ihaharap? Anong kasalanan mo?
Nakakahiya kasi ngayon wala akong ayos eh.
Ako nga, wala kang ayos. Oh. Di ba sino yan? Si Ash Kim, pag humarap sa talagang ayos na ayos. Wala akong ayos na ayos. Basta, mukha lang sa camera, makaharap lang sa camera. Tapos tingin dyan, magbabasa na ako. Ano bang mga kalukuhan mo?
Ha?
Ano bang mga kalukuhan mo? Ba't sinasabi mong kalukuhan lang alam mo?
Wala.
Oy, meron akong ganito, oh. Naglalaro ka ba niyan? Ay, ito. Naglalaro
Ano yan? Icebreaker?
Icebreaker.
Para sa ano yan?
Parang may mga question dito na para mas medyo makilala mo yung isang tao. Mag-aano ako ng isang question ha, tapos sasagutin mo.
Sige.
Ito.
Hindi ko makita.
Basa mo ba? Hindi naman siya nababasa, no? Ito, yan. Clear na yan. Yan, nababasa mo, Mac? Ano ba yung real name mo? Ba't Mac Maxki?
Real name ko talaga, Amar Dinal Andrade. Pero yung FB ko, Dance na Labayan. Pero nickname ko, Makmak.
So may nickname mo yung Mac Mac.
Hmm.
Sige nga, sagutin mo nga para magkakilala naman tayo. What difficulty has challenged you most?
Tagalogin mo.
Ano ba? Paano ba yung Tagalogin? Ano ba yung pinakamahirap na bagay na na-challenge ka? Ano ba yun? What difficulty has challenged you most?
Pinakamahirap na bagay na challenge ako?
Oo, parang siguro ano siya,
Sa buhay ko?
pinakamahirap na sa buhay mo na, or sabihin na natin, pinakamahirap na napagdaanan mo na na-challenge ka talaga na ilabas mo yung ano mo, best mo.
Available pa rin yung smart padala.
Yung
Ma'am?
na-disgrasya ako.
Na ano ka? Na aksidente ka?
1 week na hindi halos makalakad.
Bakit? Na-disgrasya sa motor?
Motor.
Uy, alam mo, yung motor, isa sa ano, gusto ko talagang maglaro na ay mag-drive ng motor. Nag-aral ako ng motor. Kaya lang sa pag-aaral ko, parang nabitin ako dun sa speed, parang bagal naman ito. Parang gusto ko nang mabilisan. Pero first day ko pa na nag-aral. Parang nababagalan ako. Bigla ko pa naman siyang hindi ko alam na full ko na pala yung speed noon nung sa motor. Nabangga ako dun sa sa sasakyan yung parang sikat-sikat sa parang pedicab. Ay, hindi siya pedicab kasi motor yung pedicab. Parang put-put sa amin dito. Tinatawag. Yung sikat-sikat, yung pedal lang. Parang
Padjak.
O, padjak. Yan, tama, yung padjak. Ko doon. Kaya hindi na ako talaga after nun, hindi na ako nag-aral magmotor. Kasi sabi nila talagang pag akyat mo pa lang talaga sa motor, parang pag angat mo pa lang, pag upo mo pa lang sa motor, nag-aano ka na niya, nagsiserkos-serkos ka na sa buhay mo. Yan yung sinasabi nila, kaya takot na ako. Ba't ka ba nakainom ka? Ha? Kasalanan
Medyo,
mo?
nakainom.
Kasalanan mo. Kaya pala anong ginawa mo?
Siyempre, ano ba gawa natin?
So, anong
Lakad pa rin.
realization mo dun? Ha?
Siyempre, pagkatumba, nakalakad pa rin kasi hindi pa ramdam yung kinakabukasan na nanginig ako ng araw. Nanginig ako sa sugat, di ako agad nagpadala ng center. Kinabukasan na ako nagpadala.
Hindi ka pala nagpa-check up after na dapat alam mo ba, merong namatay sa amin dito. Kasi feeling niya, wala siya problema. Kasi nakakapag-isip naman siya. Parang na-disgrasya sila, ganyan, na-disgrasya sila, pero meron siyang kasama na nasugatan. Tinulungan pa niya. Siya pa yung nagdala sa hospital. Doon sa kasamahan niya na sugat-sugat, ganyan. Kasi siya, wala naman siyang sugat, ganyan. Feeling niya, okay naman siya. So, dinala niya sa hospital sa Tago, mga 30 minutes pa from 30 to 45 minutes na ride. So, dinala niya, inasikaso niya, ganyan. Then, umuwi na siya sa bahay, ganyan yan. Alam mo siya, yung kasi nag-internal. Hindi niya alam na may pala siya sa loob. Kaya dapat ganun yung pag ka, mo agad. Kasi may mga hindi natin alam na naalug-alug. Di ba minsan nga yung bata, bawal alug-alugin kasi yung utak na Yan ang ginawa mo after nun. Hindi ka na nagmotor.
Motor pa rin kahit may sugat.
Huh? Di ka pa rin
1 week,
natakot?
1 week, sa 1 week na ako halos makalakad, pero ginawa ko, siyempre boring din sa bahay. Yung pinsan ko taga-drive, taga-sakay pa rin ako sa motor. Pero hindi ako halos makalakad niyan.
Pero hindi ka pa rin takot. Bakit ka sumasakay? Kailangan sa trabaho?
Hindi, sa
Gala-gala?
bakasyon kasi ako gala.
Ano palang work mo, Mac?
Sa tubero ako, pero ngayon wala na akong trabaho, almost 4 months na.
Tubero? Ano
Oo.
yun, di ba? Sa plumbing?
Oo.
Yung sa plumbing na alam mo, magpapagawa ako ng bahay. Kaya
Oo.
lang, yung budget is, yung working pa. At saka isa pa, naniniwala ka ba dun sa Kasi sabi ng nanay ko, pangit daw yung pasok ng taon ngayon. Hindi daw maganda. Simula ng January, February, parang wala daw magandang nangyari. Parang puro daw pangit yung nangyari. Kaya hindi daw magandang magpatayo
Oo.
ng bahay.
Kung malapit
Kaya
lang sana ako nagagawa.
Yun nga, no, sana. Ikaw na lang
Usapang
gumawa
kaibigan
dun
lang
sa
sana.
yun nga. Bakit? Kasi bawal pa yung di ba? Kaya wala kang work ngayon.
Nag-ooperate na yung namin, kaso yung tao kasi papasok ko limitado. Bilang
Ano
lang.
yun? Naka-work ka sa company or freelance ka na tubero? Na
Company.
sa company. Pero may ka naman, may sinasabi ka naman na masasabi na emergency fund.
Emergency fund ng Wala
Emergency fund mo.
Wala.
Pero alam mo kung ano yung emergency fund? May idea ka
Hindi ko
doon sa
alam.
emergency fund?
Ayan ba yung ayan ba yung parang contribution mo sa company mo, yung sila
Hindi. Yung hindi siya yung ganyan. Yung emergency fund is equivalent yan ng mga 6 to 1 year na sweldo mo.
Wala.
So magkano yung halimbawa magkano yung partial na mo? Yung assuming average na na salary mo.
1 month, 12,000.
Wait lang, Max, ha? May nag-claim. Ha?
Mag-claim ko 500 lang preference number.
Okay.
Natawag. Para compute tayo. Turuan kita. So ngayon sa bangko, wala ka talaga sa bangko or
Wala
kahit sa bangko may saving ka.
Wala.
So saan napupunta yung 12,000?
Siyempre,
Monthly.
tulong rin sa mga kapatid.
Ilan pala magkakapatid kayo?
4, ako panganay.
Panganay ka. Tapos yung pangalawa, nagtatrabaho na din?
Ando sa probinsya, walang trabaho.
Ikaw lang nasa Manila?
Oo.
So ikaw nagpapadala sa kanila lahat?
Hindi naman. Yung lang sa akin, yung tulong ko lang sa kapatid ko na nag-aaral, 2. Dalawang babae.
So saan ka kumukuha ng mo ngayon? Yung financial mo, kasi di ba sabi mo wala kang savings. Tapos, saan ka kumukuha?
Ay, doon, sa mga magulang ko.
Okay.
Utang, ganun.
Utang. Ano yan? Sure ka utang o hingi?
Hiram.
Hiram. So sure ka nga hiram yan?
Ha?
Sure ka na hiram yan, ha?
Kasi,
Ano?
iba naman kasi yung bigay sa hiram eh.
Full name, address, password.
Saan ka ba ngayon? Trabaho ka ba ngayon? Or sa business mo na yan?
Ito yung business ko.
Business mo pala yan.
Oo.
Sa-
Yung maliit na business. Kinakabisihan ko.
Hmm.
Sige, turuan kita kung paano yung ano mo. So, pero meron kang contribution sa SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. Kasi nasa company ka, di ba?
Almost kasi almost 5 years na sa company pero yung SS saka mga benefits ko bago pa lang nahulugan.
Bakit?
Masyadong ano yung company namin magulang din
Ah, sige, ganito gawin mo. Ganito gawin mo. Sa susunod, kailan ka ba magmo-monetize ng sa YouTube? Monetize ka na ba?
Hindi pa ako monetize, tagal pa 400 pa lang yung ano ko WH.
400 hours?
Hmm.
So, sa pag-aano, hindi ka pa nakakapag-monetize. So, yung monetization na yan, hindi ka pa pwedeng kumuha ng income. Kasi wala pa yan, wala pa siya. So, ano yung iniisip mo na sa ngayon is pwede mong pagkakitaan?
Sa ngayon, iniisip ko, gusto ko muna umuwi bago maghanap ng trabaho doon.
Pero kung uuwi ka, kukuha ka na naman ng additional na expense. Kasi yung pamasahe mo, yung ano mo.
May ticket na ako kaso na yung ticket namin na-cancel dahil nag-rebook na lang kami dahil hindi namin afford yung halaga ng requirements na bago ngayon na swab test. May post ako diyan sa account ko.
Sige, ganito na lang. So, kung uuwi ka talaga, tapos, sa next na next na earning mo, ang gawin mo, para medyo ma-meet mo yung emergency fund mo. Ang gawin mo, maglaan ka ng every income na pumapasok sa'yo. Like, nagkasweldo ka or sa patubero, meron kang freelance na ginawa. Tapos, 20%, sinuulan ka ng may sweldo ka doon na 300, assuming 300. So, sa 300 na yon 20% sa 300, kunin mo yon. Kunin mo yon yung 60 pesos. Yung 60 pesos na yon, every time na meron kang income, 60 pesos, isang 60 pesos na yon is lagay mo sa isang saving fund mo. Pwedeng sa kawayan, kung walang bangko, or sa basta maglaan ka ng parang emergency fund mo. So, every time na meron kang income na pupasok, tanayin mo yung sarili mo na mag-save ng 20%. Tapos, yung the rest is para sa needs. Yung 20, 50, 30 na ruling. Sino kasama mo dyan?
Kasama ko din sa bahay, sa boarding house, katrabaho ko rin.
Nasa boarding house ka pala? Pero hindi naman nila ako nakikita, di ba? Tayo-tayo lang.
Cellphone lang naman gamit ko, tayo lang
Okay. Saan ka ba sa Manila?
Pasay.
Malayo tayo. Nag-work ako sa Manila, sa Mandaluyong.
Saan ka ba ngayon?
Davao del Norte na ako. Sa Davao na ako. Umuwi na ako sa namin, sa province namin. Malayo. Mindanao. Tapos ikaw sa Luzon. So, araw-araw, anong ginagawa mo? Hello, Mac. Diyan ka pa? Naghang ka na
Ako
ata.
loading.
Ha? Ay, nag-loading. Okay. Nag-loading si Makmak. So, continue tayo sa pagbabasa. Baka na ano na to si Makmak. Parang nawala. Position. Position-centeredness. A driving force for many people is position, not only tangible material possession, such as fashionable clothes, home, cars, boats, and jewelry, but also the intangible possession of fame, glory, and social prominence. Most of us are aware, though our own experience, how singularly flawed such a center is, simply because it can vanish rapidly and it is influenced by so many forces. In my sense of security lies in my reputation or in the things I have in my life, will be in a constant state of dread and jeopardy that this position may be lost or stolen or devalued. If I'm in the presence of someone or greater net worth of fame or status, I feel inferior. If I'm in the presence of someone or lesser net worth or fame or status, I feel superior. My sense of self worth constantly fluctuates. I don't have any sense of constancy or virtual ha. Wait, akyat ako ulit. Sige, sige. Nalaglag ako. Ba't ka nalaglag?
Nalaglag ako.
Lalag? Yes, yes. Hello, Mac.
Ah,
Nag-LS ko, love. Nag-LS ko. Ah, ah.
okay na, okay na.
Oh, okay na. Ba't ka nalaglag? Ano yun?
Humina yung net ko. Nakadata lang kasi ako.
Ah, okay. Aska, kanina ka pa doon nakikinig sa binabasa ko?
Hindi lang.
Sana umakyat din si Jendi. Kilala mo na ba si Si
Sino?
Jen? Si Jen.
Jean.
Taga siya, taga Hong Kong siya. Friend siya ng friend ko. Vlogger din siya. Ikaw lang kung makakakit siya. Jen, akyat ka dito, Jen. Usap tayo.
Malas ka nga yung 2020.
Ha?
Malas talaga nga yung 2020.
O yun nga. So, ano na lang, yung habit 1 kasi sinasabi, wag mo lang daw siyang anuhin. Wag mo na lang daw anuhin yung mga pangyayari. So, gumawa ka na lang ng bagay na maging proactive ka, maging proactive people ka. Kasi usual, pag reactive people daw, laging sinisisi. Kasi, ganito, kasi, ganito, ganyan. So, maging proactive ka na gumawa ng isang bagay na mas may makabuluhan, something ganun. Ang daming ang daming nag-close na business. Pero 'di ba, gumana yung mga online business ngayon.
Iwan ko lang kung mapatok ka yung online business kasi mga tao kasi yan paghirap eh.
Pero meron na akong society na sinalihan na talagang siya, instead na maging lalugi siya, mas umangat pa siya lalo.
Siguro.
Oo. Diyan siya sa ano, sa Laguna sila na base. Ano siya, group siya ng mga kababaihan na nagtutulungan. Tapos, parang, ano to siya, talaga siya, more on posting sa Facebook ang ginagawa. Pero kumikita ka.
Maganda yun pag ganun. Kumikita.
Ha? Oo,
Maganda
meron
yun pag
naman,
kumikita.
merong sa side na ano, Mac. Merong sa side sa lalaki din. Lalaki din na ano. Online boss naman ang tawag. Yung sa amin, queen boss. O, parang queen kami, no? Queen. Tapos yung sa kabila, ano, online boss. Alam mo ba yung nakakapag-inspire doon yung isang ano testimony ng isang babae. Taga Dubai siya. Tapos ang sinabi niya, parang ano kasi siya, yung parang family oriented siya. Parang gusto niya this time hindi na yung money matters yung iniisip niya. Iniisip niya yung ano, yung yung family na niya. Kasi nakita daw niya sa CCTV, yung anak niya, parang pag umaalis siya sa bahay, parang nakalungkot, lungkot-lungkot yung anak niya, yung mukha ng anak niya. Kaya naghanap talaga siya ng way na makapag-stay siya. Eh, nangyari nga yung sitwasyon ngayon na stay at home. Tapos, naghanap siya ng online business. Yun yung nakita niya, yung Queen Boss. Tapos, ngayon nasa Dubai siya nasa Dubai base siya. Kumikita siya ng 8,000 a day dahil sa online business niya.
Maganda yun.
Oo. Yun nga yung ano ko, yung idol ko. Kaya yun yung wino-workout ko din na society. Kung makikita mo sa Facebook ko, ano siya,
Mga ganyan kasi dapat may ano ka rin, may pundo ka rin dun.
ha? Kailangan ng kapital?
Mga ganyan dapat may pundo ka rin eh. Oo.
Oo, kailangan mo ng kapital, pero konting-konting kapital lang siya. Hindi naman siya ganun kalaking kapital na, papatayo ka ng ano, ng ng internet shop, 'di ba? Ang laki ng kapital noon. Papatayo ka ng
Oo.
baba na ko. Ano, internet shop. Halimbawa, nagpapaano ka ng internet shop, 'di ba sa isang unit, ano siya, worth 18,000, 15,000. Yung
Mas maganda
online
na talaga yan pag ano, mini grocery lang.
yung
Kasi
ano, Mac,
mini
online
grocery
business na
ngayon yung maganda kasi hindi yan napapanis eh.
ayun nga, yung ganito lang, mini-mini, sali-sali. Kailangan pa din ng tao, di ba? Tapos nasa bahay lang din namin. Kunti lang yung ano, Mac, baka merong kakilala ka dyan na meron lang siyang initial na ano capital is 2.5. Imagine mo yung naglabas siya ng 2.5 yung si coach team 2,500 tapos ngayon nag 8,000 a day na siya. Tapos kinukumpute-compute ko nung narinig ko yung testimony niya, compute agad ako 8,000 times ano. Ha? Nagto 240,000 siya a month? Wow. Bongga. Laki ng kita online. Ma, dapat magpakita ka para parang hindi rin ako, para merong din akong kausap talaga. Moon lang nakikausap ko.
Next na LS mo pakita ako.
Sige. Nakita mo na ba yung ano, yung kumita?
Yung?
Yung comment.
Oh, nakikita ko yung comment.
Uy, nakita mo na siya? Hindi ko pa kasi nakikita dito sa amin. Hindi pa namin nakikita. Hintay si Tata. Yung comment.
Comment? Anong comment?
Ay, hindi mo alam? Yung comment nga na ano? Yung comment ngayon ba na nakikita na sa Japan. Tapos dito sa Pinas, makikita siya within sa July. Yung dito, itong week na to, makikita na siya. Kailan hindi pa rin nakikita dito sa amin? Kumita
Yung-
siya, yung ano, comet. Para may buntot, ganyan.
Parang na?
Dapat makita mo siya kasi 7,000 years pa siya ulit makikita.
Yung ano
Diba?
yun?
Yung kumita nga, yung comet. Hindi mo nabalitaan yan sa Facebook? Or
Hindi ko
sa
gets yan.
YouTube? Hindi mo gets? Ano
Hindi.
pala yung, ano mo? Ano pala yung mga balitang nakukuha mo dyan ngayon?
Wala man TV, radyo.
Ay, wala kang TV? Wala kang radyo?
Wala.
So FB ka lang talaga.
FB, YouTube, gano'n.
Sa YouTube, madami yun. I-search mo.
Wala man ako napansin.
Wala ka napansin? At ganun.
Wala.
Dapat sa YouTube, nanonood ka ng yung double, yung GMA News. Meron yan. Pinifeature yan. Tapos, ano pa ba? Saan mo ba nakikita? New ano siya tawag dun? New Wise siya na comment. Mac, gusto ko pang magtanong sa iyo, Mac. Nang-gets mo na yung Mac? Yung emergency fund?
Ano?
Nakuha mo siya, yung emergency fund?
Oo, nag-gets ko na yan.
Sige. Sana meron akong na-input sa iyo na info. Ito na lang, Mac,
Hindi ko mabasa, basahin mo na lang.
What one thing gives joy to you? Ano ba yung nagpapasaya sa'yo?
Yung pag-isipan talaga.
Okay, baka sagutin mo ko ng na paggawa ng kalukuhan. Nakakapagsaya sa akin. Saman. Sige. Pasulat ko.
Ano mo to siya kung ano madam?
Ha? Na-picture na nako.
Madam?
Nakapag-picture na ko sa inyo?
Ano kapagala naman ko, ito 300 lang.
Oo, pero naka-picture na ba ko katong sa phone ng gamit?
Wala, siguro.
Wala. Pero nakita lang ID. Wala. Pila ipadala? Pila ipadala? 300. Check na ko kung na-apply fund. Kay sa system naman good siya ba ang kanang kuan ang pagpadala smart money. Sige, try na ako din sa smart money na isa. Mac, okay ka lang dyan, Mac? Malis na ata si Mac. Hello, Mac. Andyan ka pa, Mac? Sige, sir. Pasulat na lang ko sa info. Kaila, ikuha na ko ni asterisk 1, 2, 3 number. So, try natin magpapadala. Si Makmak is umalis na. Siguro na ano na yung data.
Ito, pizarro na.
24. Umalis na siguro si Makmak.
Namay lodre.
Naa.
Hindi lang din tayo sila. Pwede pa ang bilan.
Ay, dito pa ako. Ako lang mag-isa viewers mo. Ikaw nga lang mag-isa. Last time, andito si Chai Chai. Kahapon, mas maraming Meron akong co-host kahapon. Si Chai Ruizem. Paload ka, Smart? Sa Smart, paload? 15? Yan din ako 15. 15.
So, pinti.
09 38 30 57 392. 0938 30 57 392. Virtual ha, good vibes. Salamat sa pag-good vibes. Nabubore ka siguro kasi ikaw lang isa dito sa ano ko. Kaya nga ginagawa ko, nagbabasa lang ako. Tapos yun nga. Sana pumasok sila sila Jen at saka Tismet ko yung girl ba yan? O mag-asawa to. Di pwede. Naghahanap ka ng ka-textmate? Ba't naghahanap ka ng ka-textmate? Expense din yan, Mac. Hihingan ka pa niya ng load. Tambay ka lang dito, tapos malay mo, merong na single. Bigay ko sa'yo. Pero expense yan. I told you, expense yung ka-textmate mo. 18. Ha? Wala na, bot?
Ha?
Ang load?
Wala.
Ah.
Wala.
Joke lang yun na text me. Mangisda ka host ninja game. Alam mo na, ko sa pangisa, ang sinasabi kasi nila, mas kailangan mong i-workout muna yung yung watch hours. Madali lang daw kasing i-earn yung sabi dali lang daw i-earn yung Pero yung watch hours daw kasi.
Kasama mo ang account number.
Anong oras mo ba Mac? Kailan ka nag-LS?
Sa smart niya.
Kailan ka nag-LS? Hindi talaga ako nakakakit sa'yo. Dami kong kasalanan sa'yo. Ako yung may walang mukhang iharap. Sa bagay mo na yun kasi ba? Oo, sabi. Merong pumasok sa akin dito, ano siya, taga Japan. Tapos si Boy Danlac officials pumasok din sa akin kahapon. Medyo madami madami kahapon si Boy Danlac, si Jen, tapos si Annalyn nasa Japan. Yun. Gabi ako nag-LS mga 7 or 9:30 kaso natigil ako, no budget. O yun nga, kailangan din talaga ng budget, no? Ito, ginab ko lang siya kasi meron akong wifi dito. Sayang naman din. Kaya sabi ko, ay, pwede pala. Kasi nung una, sabi, silent. Pero parang mas gusto ko kasi ng nakakapag-communicate. Tapos, yun nga, paano ako magsa-silent LSE? Nagbabasa ako. Eh, yung binabasa ko, gusto kong ma-share. So, gusto ko naririnig nila para natututo sila sa binabasa ko. While ako, natututo ako sa binabasa ko, natututo din sila. Kaya yun. Kung gabi ang LS mo, pwede ako makapasok sa'yo ng 7 p.m. or mga 8. Pero pag 9:30 yung ano mo, yung LS mo, hindi ako nakakapasok, tulog na ako niyan. Mga 9 pa lang, parang kailangan ng anuhan yung mata ko kasi wala, pabagsak na siya. Parang automatic na siyang, ewan ko,
Kapiyon sa kuan, unya na. Kapiyon sa ang gitek. Maya, taon-taon nagtawag ba kay kapiyon sa tong gitek nga number.
so na busy na ang ano.
Ngaran niya. Sige, ngaran.
Serve ka lang sa business ha, malay mo may matutunan ka dito.
Lan, i-text ba, imong pangalan ng kuan, imong pangalan ng apelyido sa
Nakakaintindi ka ng Bisaya?
text lang. Ah,
Nakakaintindi ka ng Bisaya, ano, Mac? Alam mo yung ginagawa ko, anong itong ginagawa ko? Maaga ka pala. Oo, maaga ako natutulog, ano, Mac. 9 o'clock, parang wala na, nakakaano na ako. Minsan nga may kausap pa ako sa phone. Hindi na, parang magagalit sa akin kasi habang nag-aano siya, nagsasalita siya, tulog na ako. Wait lang ha, wait lang. Maaga. May asawa ka na, boss? Wala pa akong asawa. Walang gustong mag-marry me. Konti lang. Gusto mo mag-aral ka ng Bisaya? Turuan kita. Masulat. Turuan kitang Bisaya. Anong gusto mong salita? Tagalogin mo, tapos ibibisaya ko.
Number ay GSA.
Thank you. Wala na. Mac, sige na, game tayo. Pag Tagalog ka, tapos ibibisaya ko. Ay, akala ko meron na. Ilang taon ka na ba, host? Grabe interview. Uy, ano na ako, ano tawag dyan, lampas na akong kalendaryo. Kinukulit na nga ako ng mga friends ko at saka yung parents ko. Kaya lang ayoko nang ma-pressure. Sabi nga, be proactive. Huwag mo nang anuhin, ano siya. Ano na ako, midlife crisis. Nasa midlife crisis na ako na edad. Ano, application na mag-a-apply.
Para naman.
Sabot ka. Pakuan lang ko sa account ha. 5577 5193 3391 9100.
Ma'am.
5577-5193-3391-4100. Ipadala is 300 na. 35, 300. Sandali lang, Mac, ha. $348 less 500. 152. Mataas pa dun, Mac. Hindi ako 35. 152. 152. Ito. Nang change. Salamat. Process pa na ako, sir, ha? Kailan, sir? Lampas na ako sa lampas pa dyan, mas mataas pa dyan sa 35 na yan. Ikaw, ilang taon ka? Mabuti nakakagets ka ng Bisaya. Ay, tama yan. Ay, hindi po naman ako 40. Magpo 40 pala. Bata mo pa pala. Tamang-tama ka dapat ka na talaga, mag-ipon ka na talaga, Mac. Huwag mong sayangin yung yung kabataan mo. Mag-ipon ka, tapos magawa ka ng mga gusto mong gawin sa buhay. Enjoy mo yung life. Magpasyal-pasyal ka, ganyan. Pag naging okay na yung sitwasyon, pumasyal ka saan gusto mo, saan gusto mo puntahan. Ang bata mo pa talaga, no? 26. Mga 26, mga 25 ako nung nasa sa Maynila ako. Unang alis ko sa amin is sa Cebu. Nag-Cebu muna ako bago ako nag-Manila. Mag-ipon ako para sa atin, host. Ano yung mag-iipon mo? Ayos ah. Para alam mo yung story yung story ng mga ganyan-ganyan. Marunong kang magpatawa talaga. Naghahanap ka pala ng ng tawag dyan. Dapat sa 26 years old. Kasi wala ka pang ipon. Kilig na siya, oh. Hindi na, pagagalitan na ho ng kumak. Baka sabihin niya, anuin mo na yung LS mo. Baka pagalitan ako. Meron naman akong boyfriend. Yun lang, wala pa siyang, sabi niya, parang wala pang, hindi pa clear yung kung mag-aano ba siya. Basta yun, wag na muna natin i-online. Ano pa naman yun, parang conservative pa naman yun. Ano siya, parang ayaw niya yung, kasi sabi niya sa isang daw, yung sa mga textmate daw nagsisimula, yung ganun. So, at first, sa simula pa lang daw, kung alam mo na iba ang intention sa isang tao sa'yo, sa unang step pa lang daw, wag mo na siyang wag mo nang i-entertain. Kasi, magkakasiraan kayo ng karelasyon mo. Yun. So, yung mga ganong bagay. So, magsisimula daw yun sa number 1. So, wag ka nang mag-step 1. Mas maganda nga na umakyat ka para mas magkausap tayo. Sana meron ding mag-visit sa dito sa akin yung parang madami para mas makilala ko. Like sa'yo, sa pa. Kasi plano ko pag may umaakyat, yun nga tinatanong ko kasi para mas ma-introduce ko. Meron kasi mga dito na yung isang friend ko sa siya sa Hong Kong. Yung isa naman sa Vietnam. Tapos yung isang naman is sa Japan. So, 'di ba? Para ano yung tama yan, host? Ano tama, Mac? Saan ang tama dyan? yung kung halimbawang sinasabi mo na yung tama is yung sinasabi ng ano, ng boyfriend ko, oo, tama nga siya. Pag sa simula pa lang, ano yun mo na, sa simula pa lang, wag ka nang ano, pumasok sa isang bagay na alam mo naman na parang magiging delikado yung relationship mo. Pero minsan, yun nga lang, sinasabi nila, wag na, ganyan-ganyan. Daming mga ano, no, daming mga ochos-ochos. Pero sa isang relasyon, pag gustong-gusto mo, talaga gustong-gusto mo, talagang mag-ano ka, mag-hold on ka. Hopefully, tama yung desisyon ng pag-hold on. Hindi siya ano, hindi siya waste of time. Kasi mahirap din yung mga ganun. Delay ka pala, host. Oh, medyo baka ano din ng sa akin dito. Delay din ng ano, yung dating ng message, mabagal ba? Sabi nga, baka delay nga ako. Mahina yung ano, yung net. Edad mo is 26, so dapat iniisip mo 10 years from now or 5 years from now, anong ginagawa mo? So, saan ka na ba sa 5 years or saan ka na ba after 10 years? Dapat meron kang ano, meron kang goal plan. Magawa ka ng ano, ng tawag dyan, magawa ka ng dream board. Gawa ka ng dream board mo para yun yung magiging target mo. Basta ako, ang saka ngayon, gusto ko talagang mabasa to. Itong libro na to. Kaya, yun ang ginagawa ko ngayon, yung magbasa. Para marami akong matutunan. Mahina nga siguro din yung ano mo, yung net mo. Ganda talaga ng virtual hug at saka good vibes. May ibabato pa akong question sa iyo, ano ma. How do you value yourself? Paano mo pinapahalagahan ang sarili mo? Sana pumasok din dito sila ano no, sila Kim Oida, sila Ash Kim, sila attorney, sino pa ba yun yung mga naano ko din sa ano. Pero ikaw talaga yung isa din sa natatandaan ko sa mga LS kasi ang kulit mo. Pang good vibes ka nga talaga sa ano sa grupo. Kaya mas maganda pag meron tayong mga kasama dito para kulit-kulitin mo. Nagdi-delay talaga siya. Ito pala yun, yung lalong pahirapan sa requirements ng travel pass sa mga nawala ng trabaho dito sa Maynila. Para na to, salamat. Hindi ko pa 'to napanood. Panoorin ko nga 'to. Ano ba 'to? Ang tao na sa video po is si Mark Dinold Andrade, origin from Aranas, Balete, Aklan, na nasa Maynila ngayon. He was working as plumber pero nang dumating ang pandemic, nahinto ang trabaho niya. 4 months na silang nakatambay, walang source of income. Napablatter pa sa barangay dahil wala nang pambayad sa renta. Mm. Ngayon po, sila ay nagnais ng umuwi sa kanilang probinsya. Pero bago na makauwi, alam naman natin na kailangan muna mag-comply sa protocols. Una, pumunta sila sa barangay kung saan sila nakabase. Kumuha ng requirements sa sinunod naman ito. At nang makomply na nila ito, nag-book na sila ng plane ticket para makauwi na. Bukas na po sana ang schedule, July. Bukas na schedule mo? Bukas na po sana ang schedule, July 25, 2020. Subalit napag-alaman nila nung isang araw lang mula sa text message ng airline na kailangan pa pala nilang mag-swab test bago sila payagang makasakay sa eroplano at tuluyang payagang makauwi sa Aklan. Ngunit ang problema nila ay wala na talaga silang mapagkunan ng pambayad ng swab testing po ay pambayad. Ang swab testing po ay nakakalaga ng 4,000. Dahil nga sa 4 na buwan na silang walang trabaho, ay hirap na ito makabayad sa halaga ng swab testing. Kaya naman po, siya ay nanawagan. Okay. Dahil nga sa 4 na buwan na silang walang trabaho, ay hirap na ito makabayad sa halaga ng swab testing. Kaya naman po, siya ay nanawagan sa mga kinaukulan ng LGU Baliti Aklan, Philippines Radyo Todo Aklan, at sa kanilang governor na si Honorable Florencio Miraflores of Province of Aklan upang sila ay maabutan ng tulong. Mga kaibigan ko, small YouTubers, at sa may mga makabubuting puso dyan, sana naman po ay ma-share natin ito upang makaabot sa kanilang LGU. In this time of pandemic, may we have one heart to share and help the needy. God bless everyone. Post from, guys, pa-help, pa-share. Hindi ko kasi ma-upload sa Facebook, kaya pinadaan ko na lang sa YouTube. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. Wala yung kausap ko sa ano. Mac, andyan ka pa dyan, Mac? Mac, andyan ka pa? Nakalikom na kayo para sa swab test? Ha? Paano wala?
Hello.
Saman?
Asan ba na ni Ma'am Bermoy dito?
Ni?
Ma'am Bermoy.
Bernie?
Bermoy.
Loka, ilang.
Doon sa clinic.
Sa?
Doon dali sa clinic. Purok do.
Purok dos? Purok, kung purok dos, dili man ni purok dos, purok 4 ni.
Purok do daw.
Purok 4 ni siya. Purok dos is lahi nga area.
Sa unahan mo.
Oh, sunod ata sa purok 1 nga ano, dito dapita sa ano, padulong na tagum. Paliko. Lalong humihirap, lalong sumasarap ang buhay. Baka naman ito yung sinasabi mo na ano, mas mahirap na challenges. Hindi pa kami nakapag-swab test, so mahal kasi di naman namin afford ang halaga na yan. Pero ano nangyari sa ano mo, sa ticket mo? Magkano pala yung ano yung ticket mo? Hindi ka ba ano, tawag dyan? Hindi ba pwede na, kasi sa pagkakalam ko, dito sa ano namin, dito sa lugar namin, parang free naman yung ano dito. Free siya sa ano ha, kung tama yung pagkakaalam ko, free siya sa mga health. Kasi so ni-refund na yung ano nyo, yung ticket nyo. So kung ni-refund na yung ticket nyo, hindi pa siya pwedeng yung ticket ay yung ni-refund na amount is ipa-swab test nyo? Mahal ba? Kung 4,000, magkano ba ang ticket na ano? Magkano ba ang na-refund sa ticket nyo? Doon sa post mo ba, meron ng sumagot? Meron nagtawag siya? Meron na nagpadala or nagtumulong, something? $1,700 lang ang ticket, yung swab test 4,000 kasi. Oo nga. Medyo mura nga ang mga ticket ngayon. Kasi nga parang nagpo-promo sila. Pero yung 1,700 na yan na yung na-refund? Kasi baka naman binawasan pa. Kasi nung una, nung sinabi mo, nabasa ko, parang naisip ko na pwede nyo i-refund ang ticket, tapos yung refund na yon is mag-ano ng swab test. Or pwedeng makibalita kayo, baka merong mga nagpi-free ng swab test dyan. Kasi, ano ba, nagpapabayad ba talaga sila? So, parang panibagong ano? Okay. So, rebook siya. So, kung rebook siya, ibig sabihin, August 1 na ang next na biyahe mo. So, kailangan lang siya, so imagine mo, na-rebook na. So, kailangan mo makalikom ng para pampaswab test para sa August 1. Rebook pala, hindi refund. So, sa ngayon, yung sa swab test niyo, Mac, is magkano na yung napundo mo para sa swab test? Kasi habang tumatagal, yung napupundo mong pera, kasi wala kang kitaan na is nababawasan din siya. Di ba? Bertulag. Kasi kailangan mo, tingin ko, kailangan mong bunuin yung ano, yung to 4,000. So, 25 na bukas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 days. 7 days na anuhin mo. Ano ba mga comment na ano doon sa ano mo? Saan na yun? Mali reaction. Share ko sa mga friends ko ha. Hmm. Kung halimbawa mangungutang ka, paano yung pagbabayad mo? Anong plano mo sa pagbabayad mo? Hamak. Anong plano mo sa ano? Halimbawa, kasi ang 1,700, magkano? Hindi ka na din pwedeng mangutang sa ano mo, sa parents mo para makauwi. So, kailangan mo na iba. So, kung halimbawa kailangan mo ng iba na pangutang, makukuhanan mo ng tulong, ang tanong is, anong plano mo at kailan mo siya babayaran? Paano ba yung ano? Yun lang, di pa alam, wala kasi work. Baka hanap sideline host pag sa probinsya na. O yun nga, kasi 7 days na ano, mag-aano ka pa ng ano diyan, ng pera, 'di ba? So maghahanap ka pa ng yung pera within 7 days, dapat limitahan mo talaga para sa pag ano mo, sa biyahe mo, pag-uwi. Kasi yung tingin ko pag-uwi nyo sa ano, sa province is iaano ka dyan eh, di ba? Parang ikwa-quarantine ka ulit. Ayun nga, gagawin ko host. Sige, sabihan mo ko kung magkano yung mga na, halimbawa, kung merong malikom na ano, sa August 1 yung ano mo, di ba? August 1. Sasabihan mo ko kung baka meron ako maitulong sa'yo. Bago yung flight mo. Baka makalikom ka. Tapos yung mga kulang dun sa naliko mo within 7 days. Mas pwedeng pahiramin kita. Kasi kung halimbawa, 4,000 within 7 days, dapat nakaka-income ka na, dapat may pumasok na pera na, sa 500, mga 600, o 600 to 700 nakitaan. Para maliko mo yung 4,000. sa bago. Pero dapat kasi swab test ka. Dapat swab test ka na dapat, 'di ba? Ilang days ba bago ano, ilang days ba bago tawag diyan? Bago yung flight mo, dapat na swab test ka na. Meron bang requirements na ganon? Kasi baka August 1 yung flight mo. Ano yung nakaano doon sa yung requirements within ilang days dapat lumabas, kasi 'di ba ilang days ba ang lalabas yung swab test result na paano ka nga kung mag-aano ka, paano ka makakauwi? Possible ba na meron kang gamit na pwede mo siyang isangla? Or pwede mong ibenta? Kasi nung una, nung nandun ako sa Cebu, o yun nga, so dapat nga kung ganyan yung baka 1 week, so dapat nga, ngayon pa lang, or kaya bukas, or Monday pala, bukas, meron nakapag-swab ka na. Kasi, para makuha mo ng kasi hindi pwede na yung flight mo is August 1, tapos ka na, mga Thursday ka pa wala pang result nun, paano ka okay lang ba na kahit walang result, di ba, ayaw ko magbenta ng gamit ko sa panghinayang kasi. O isa yun, alam mo yung sa akin kasi Mac, yung nakaranas ako na, yung sa Cebu, nakaranas ako na wala naman ako kasalanan nun. Pero meron yung yung relatives ko na tinirhan ko doon, niya, parang pinalayas ako. Parang ganun. Pinalayas in a way na, wala naman akong kasalanan doon sa, pagpapalayas. So, gabi yun. Tapos, ang ginawa ko, talagang nagsangla ako. Meron akong nun, kwintas. Sinanla ko siya. Tapos, yun yung ginamit ko pang para makapangbayad dun sa titirhan ko. Saka yung kailangan ko. May mga bagay na kailangan mo din iisipin kung kasi pwede, halimbawa phone mo, isangla mo siya kung pwede mo siyang isangla sa mga kaibigan mo or kaya sa mo muna siya. Tapos, para makapag-swab test ka. Then, i-work out mo naman ngayon yung pagkuha ng phone mo. Yung sinangla mo. Para makauwi ka. Kasi, pwedeng yun muna gawin mo. Tapos, within 7 days or kaya 6 days or 5 days, i-work out mo naman yung pangsanla, pangkuha ng isinanla mong gamit. Para na-save mo yung time sa mo, sa swab, para makakuha ka ng result. Kasi kung hindi mo siya gagawin earlier ngayon, wala kang action gagawin yun, baka ma-rebook na naman ulit yung ticket mo. Lalo kang tumatagal. So kung ako, advice ko, kung ayaw mo mangutang or ayaw mo mas ideal kung yun nga, mo na. Wala nang pang-contact pag CP, isa lang kasi. Yun nga, yung CP, kung pwede mo siyang i-ano muna, ipa, tawag dyan, iparenta, maling word. I-phone mo siya. Or kaya, i-ano mo lang muna sa mga kakilala mo dyan. Yung pwede mong pag-trust, parang taking sa ano na lang, sa pride mo. Yung focus kasi natin is, maanuhan ka ng test. So, pwedeng isang mo muna siya, ang tamang term. Isang mo muna siya sa, sa, sa kakilala mo, dyan. For sure, meron ka namang friend dyan na pwede mong anuhan. I-ano mo muna. Tapos, para ano ka na ng swab test. Then, so nakabayaran mo na yung sa swab test mo, di ba? Ngayon naman, ang i-workout mo naman is yung sa sa pagkuha ng cellphone mo na sinangla mo. Yun yung isa. Kasi kung ayaw mo manghiram, pwede kang magsangla, pwede kang magbenta ng bagay, or pwede kang mag-volunteer sa tinitirhan mo na yung parang sideline mo, baka meron naman sa mga tabi-tabi na pwedeng pagtrabahuan mo. Or sa mga kakilala mo na habang nag-workout yung sa Facebook na pinost mo. Yung tingin ko na ano pa ba yung ibang pwede mong gawin? Yun nga, yun yung tingin ko, pwede mong o yun nga, parang yun lang yung naisip ko eh. Basta yung nung nangyari sa akin yan na parang walang-wala ako, is nagsangla ako. Actually, hindi ko na siya hindi ko na siya tawag dyan, narimata na lang yun siya. Para sa akin kasi, parang, yun na yung naging niya, yung parang naging served na sa bagay na sa akin. Hanggang nag-survive ako sa Cebu. Doon na ako sa probinsya manghiram hos para doon ko din sila mabayaran. Kaso, pwede din yun na na option. Kasi 'di ba, parang promise ko na magbabayad ako, kaya nga uuwi ako, tapos babayaran ko yung utang ng paunti-unti. Pwede din yun na option. Dapat may sumagot doon. Kaya lang dapat talaga ma-actionan na yung na-share ko naman yun sa 'di ba? Dapat ma-actionan siya ng madalian para habang tumatagal kasi, kumakain ka din ng pera dyan sa mo. Iba kung halimbawa Maris na ata si Makmak. Basta Mak, message mo ko kung halimbawa man. Kasi kailangan mo na talaga ng kailangan mo talaga siya gawa ng paraan as much as possible yung sitwasyon. Panoorin ko yung mo. Parang umalis na si Makmak. Thanks, Doc. Basta Mac, yun. Yun lang yung ko. Basta message mo ko or kung anong sitwasyon. Ayaw mo naman manghiram. Kung gusto mong manghiram dun din sa province, tama din naman. Kasi para mas may mag-aano sa'yo. Update mo ko, message mo ko sa pwede ako sa'yo, katulong. Mihina na net mo, baka kakain na wala ka ng pang contact. Basta message mo ko, kailangan ka na, makakuha ka na ng amount na yan sa 25 or sa Sunday.
Wala na kayong mga paang dito, Jim.
Salamat din. Ha?
Picturahan ako ang mga paang dito.
Sige.
Okay, putarap ang dingding.
Basta message. Tapos lang. Kung anong magpa 5 o'clock na. So, need ko na siyang need na akong mag-stop dun sa sa LS ko. Kasi magsi-celebrate pa yung friend ko ng 21 years nila ng wedding anniversary. Inananyahan na ako na na pumunta. So, yun lang, Mac. Ingat ka dyan. Tapos, Pasay. Sana maano ka, no? Wala kasi akong kakilalang nasa Pasay. Karamihan nasa sa Mandaluyong. Sige, Mac. See you tomorrow. Tapos balitaan mo ko. Para magawa ng paraan yung sitwasyon mo. Kasi kailangan talaga na Kasi kung ganun, parang kakain talaga siya ng pera. Pag-isipan mo. Kasi pwede mo naman din siyang yung bagay na sinabi mong ayaw mo munang magbenta. For the meantime, mo lang siya. Gamitin mo siya, kaya nga tinatawag siyang gamit. Gamitin mo siya. Kasi yung mo naman na option na yun is Yes, love. Welcome. Basta yun, Mac. Gamitin mo siya muna. Tapos, kasi meron ka namang target eh. Kasi kailangan mo na siyang makauwi at saka maging okay ka dun sa sa province. Mahirap na yung walan. Iningat, then pray kita. Maging okay. Basta message mo ako. Bye-bye.